Hello, Molly here, and I'm back to continue talking about that thing I love so much, philosophy. Today we'll be talking about metaphysics, or, put more plainly and directly, reality. So, let's get real. Sorry. So, given what was established in the 3 axioms video, the fact that we are able to ask the question, what is reality, means that we exist, and therefore we have an identity and a consciousness to even ask the question in our mind. So, we know we're here, but how do we know what is out there? Or how do we know what is real? How do we know it? What is reality? There are 3 basic fundamental approaches to this question. 1. Nothing is real and everything is an illusion. 2. Everything is real, but the true higher reality is not directly perceivable and exists in another realm. Or 3. Reality is what we can perceive directly through our sensory data and nothing else. The first approach isn't difficult to address. If I try to convince you that nothing is real, everything is an illusion, and the evidence of your senses mean nothing, well, for one thing, this argument destroys itself because it is a performative contradiction. If I believe that nothing is real and the senses are invalid, then why would I be trying to convince an illusory human being by way of their invalid sense of hearing of the reality that everything isn't real? If this person I'm trying to convince understands me, his senses are valid and he is real, given that he has a consciousness to understand the argument. If the opposite is true, then why would I be attempting to pointlessly convince him? Or, if I'm also an illusion, how can I be arguing? Based on the 3 axioms from the previous video, any thought I form confirms that I exist. If I'm arguing with someone, I also assume that they exist and have a real consciousness to convince. This argument just doesn't hold together. There are so many contradictions, it would be a full-time job to list them all. On top of that, there is no way to prove or disprove this hypothesis, which defeats the purpose of trying to argue it rationally, so we can move on. Approach number 2 was put forward by Socrates' pupil Plato. In his work, The Cave, he posited that all things we perceive with our senses are real, but are merely shadows cast on the wall of a cave. These shadows are imperfect, unformed copies of the ideal reality which exists outside the cave in which he called the world of forms. I may devote an entire video to this proposition because there's quite a bit to it with serious implications to how we live our lives. But in a nutshell, everything we see is valid, but less valid than the original perfect ideal that exists in a higher realm. Again, this is non-falsifiable. You can't disprove it, and there's no way of providing objective evidence to support the claim. I can tell you that I thought about an ice cream cone yesterday, but how would I prove it? And how would you disprove it? If I were an engineer building a bridge, and I stated that my provably faulty calculations were perfectly valid in a higher realm, would any rational person drive across my bridge? Please tell me no. The third approach, also known as empiricism, was put forward by Plato's pupil Aristotle. In this approach, we posit that everything we can perceive through sensory data, or in our modern times augmented via instrumentation, is all that there is. There is no higher realm where things are more true. This view of the nature of reality allowed for the true birth of the scientific method and objectively reproducible conclusions. Aristotle himself founded several sciences whose basic fundamental conclusions are still more or less in use today. The dichotomy between these last 2 propositions is captured timelessly in Raphael's School of Athens, which centers around depictions of Plato pointing upward to the higher realm and Aristotle holding his palm downwards over the earth. The split between these 2 great philosophers on matters of metaphysics has caused far more of an effect on the events of history than you would think something so abstract could cause. It's a critical difference. And that's what I have to say about the basics of metaphysics. Again, seriously abstract, but critical as we move forward. Until next time, keep it real. Thanks for watching.